Hey everybody, I'm Mike, this is Budgety, I'm Mike, this is Budgety Guns and Gear Reviews, and you are watching The Right of the People, where we use the first to defend the second every Friday night at 11:30 p.m. Eastern. So uncover your keyboards, fire up your fingers, and come join the conversation.
Hey everybody out there on YouTube's and watching this in the replay. I did not get a chance to post this over on Gun Channels this evening. I had to go to work early today and didn't get a chance to set everything up before I went to work, so I had to rush home and try and get it all done. So, gee, if you're out there listening, my bad, man, I apologize. Nothing I could do to get this over on Gun Channels like I usually do. But those of you who are watching this on the replays on Gunstreamer, awesome. Glad to have you. It is Friday, the 13th of December, 2019, and this is The Right of the People, where we use the first to defend the second. And well, there's a lot of people doing that over in Virginia this week, and we'll be talking about them here in a moment. But first, I'd like to say hello to my esteemed panel. We got the one, the only, the Kingpin himself, David Bowling. How you doing, sir?
Doing pretty swell. Thanks for having me, Budget. I appreciate it.
As always, sir, you are more than welcome to come by this show. And speaking of as always, we have the irascible yet lovable Squibload. How are you, sir?
Hey, everybody. It's Friday the 13th, and you're here with us.
Yep, bad luck has struck. You have to listen to this wonderful dumpster fire in progress, right? Out there on the chat here on the YouTubes, Star Snoop Dogg popped in, said she's going to miss the show, but wanted to stop by and show support. Well, thank you. I very much appreciate it. Gabe Stark says, we need a pre-chat. New York Outcast is out there. Boob Sweat leads to pearl necklaces. Glimtech, Fried Chicken Now says, help, my governor wears blackface and wants post-birth abortions. Call for help. Europe, you owe us bigly. I'm assuming he's a Virginian, or she could be. I'm assuming Fried Chicken is a Virginian. 10X Shooters is out there. I don't think I've ever seen 10X Shooters out there, so welcome. Hopefully you enjoy the show and want to come back. Let's see. We got Kingpin pulling double duty, 9mm, NEPA gun talk, Mystic Guns, Guitar Man Pete, and if I've missed anybody else, hey, if you're not posting out there in the chat, I can't see ya. So welcome, welcome. For those of you who are new to the show, this is where we talk about the week's current events from last Friday to today. That are Second Amendment related, and then we give our opinion, commentary, and analysis of it. This is a two-way conversation, however, not just between me and my esteemed panel members, but it's also between me and you down there in the chat. You know, chime in. If you have something to add, please feel free. I just ask that we keep it PG-13 at the most, because YouTube gets funny about stuff like that, right? Let's see. Anybody else hopped in? I thought I saw a couple. Let's see. The Pope Joy, Travis T, Bo Weevil. Glad to see you all out there. So, Kingpin's in here twice. What is this? Did the first one lose connection?
Yeah, the chamber's acting up. I got through Gary's show just fine, but you know, this might be one of those nights.
Well, it is Friday the 13th, and this is The Right of the People. Technical difficulties are pretty much guaranteed, right? So,
yeah, it wouldn't be a Friday night without some.
Virginia. You guys are reaping the consequences of not getting the pro-gun vote out on Election Day. For those that don't know, Virginia elected a new slate of Democrat/socialist legislators who are anti-gun, and they are promising to begin in January, when they go in their legislative session, a ton of new infringements on Virginians' rights to keep and bear arms. Predictably, the Virginians are fighting back. They're going to town hall meetings. They're passing sanctuary county resolutions. As a matter of fact, 80% of the counties in Virginia have enacted some sort of Second Amendment sanctuary resolution, stating that, basically, hell no, you're not going to take my AR-15. However, there is some pushback from the politicians in Virginia who have ill intentions towards their gun rights. Although they, as of, let's see, when was this article? As of December 10th, and I will share this article with you now. Wait, no, that is not what I'm looking for. Stop. That's you guys again. We can't have that. Let me see that one. See? Technical difficulties abound. It is Friday the 13th. And I was in a rush. Yes, that is my story, and I will stick to it. Anyhow, Virginia Dems cave on confiscation as 2A sanctuaries expand. Gun rights groups unsatisfied with concession vow to fight on. This is from the Washington Free Beacon by Stephen Gutowski from December 10th, 2019. Virginia Democratic leaders abandoned their gun confiscation proposal Monday following a grassroots outpouring of opposition to gun control across the state. Governor Ralph Northam, Democrat, and incoming Senate Majority Leader Dick Saslaw, Democrat, said they will no longer pursue their marquee plan to ban the possession of assault weapons, quote unquote. Instead, they will include a provision to allow Virginians to keep their firearms they already own. Well, isn't that mighty nice of them that they're going to allow you to keep what you already have? They're going to allow you to keep your property. They're going to allow you to keep your constitutionally protected property. Isn't that mighty big of them? Anyhow, instead, let's see, the reversal comes before the newly elected Democratic majority has even been sworn in after a majority of the state's counties declared themselves Second Amendment sanctuaries. In this case, the governor's assault weapons ban will include a grandfather clause for individuals who already own assault weapons, with the requirement they register their weapons before the end of a designated grace period, Northam spokeswoman Alina Yamasky told the Virginia Mercury. Gee, after registration comes what? Oh, wait, confiscation. If you think that they're going to just leave that registration bit go, you're absolutely nuts. That's so they know where they are so they can come and take them because, well, we'll get into some other stories here in a bit. Let's see, where are we? The Democrats' backtracking may indicate a trend in the gun debate in Virginia. Gun control advocates poured millions of dollars into successfully flipping the state legislature, but the outpouring of opposition to their agenda, even in deep blue areas, may cause some new members of the state legislature to be cautious about backing gun control. The concession is unlikely to end the fight brewing across the state, however, as Democrats still plan to pursue a ban on many new sales. The Virginia Citizens Defense League, which has pushed counties to refuse to enforce unconstitutional gun laws, said there is no doubt the Democrats' retreat was a result of the Second Amendment sanctuary movement. They were hoping to play that card later, but they're playing it now because they have to find some way to slow down this whole process, Philip Van Cleve, the group's president, told the Washington Free Beacon. Gun rights groups said the backtracking is merely a political strategy designed to enact new gun bans and registration. Governor Northam and the rest of Virginia's anti-gun politicians' idea of compromise is to threaten hundreds of thousands of Virginians with felonies unless they submit to government control, Catherine Mortensen, a National Rifle Association spokesperson, told the Free Beacon. The NRA will stand with the Commonwealth's law-abiding gun owners in solidarity to oppose gun bans, confiscations, and registrations. We've been down this compromise road, and their version of a compromise is they never give up anything, Van Cleve said. We are expected to give up something every time, and we're not doing it anymore. I think gun owners are tired of this, and they're going to stand up and fight this stuff. The grandfather clause offered by Northam's office had no impact on VCDL's opposition to the bill, Van Cleve said, and the group will fight any new gun ban, whether it has a confiscation component or not. The problem with what his suggestion is, it's still taking away our guns. Van Cleve said, yeah, we get to keep our AR-15s, but what about the next generation and the generation after them? Who are we to negotiate away their rights and accept this crap? Well, I have to agree with Mr. Van Cleve on that. He did suggest that they could work with Democrats on gun legislation if it targeted criminals instead of gun owners. According to Van Cleve, there were 59 sanctuaries in the state as of Tuesday. VCDL is organizing supporters to attend 20 more meetings this week alone. So, good on the Virginians for standing up to this garbage. They're not going to take it, and I don't blame them. Let me see out here in the chat. Yes, Guitar Man Pete says, tyranny much? Absolutely. Fried Chicken Now says rebellion time. Maybe not quite yet. He calls them traitors. I have to agree with that. Guitar Man Pete then says, all gun control pushing elected officials are traitors to our country and should be handled as such. 10X Shooter said, government is full of crooks and criminals. We need to get them out and convict them of treason. All right, so there we go. That is some of what's happening in Virginia, but, you know, as the infomercial guy, there's more. Because they're not really, they're not going to, the politicians, the ideologues, the gun grabbers, the anti are not going to stand back and allow the peons to not dictated to, because, you know, dictators got dictated. When's this from? Day after the piece read, this piece comes out. This from 13 News Now. Does it have a byline? Dana Smith from December 11th. Governor Northam says Second Amendment sanctuaries won't stop him from pursuing, quote-unquote, common sense gun legislation. Northam stressed today he supports the Second Amendment and he's not taking guns away from anyone. The intent of his gun reform is to save lives. Virginia Beach, Virginia. Governor Ralph Northam said the Second Amendment sanctuary resolutions being passed in municipalities across the state won't stop him from pursuing common sense gun legislation. He said there's nothing unconstitutional about the gun reform he introduced. They can continue to have their meetings. They can continue to make sanctuary counties. But we're going to continue to do what Virginians have asked us to do, Northam said. And I have to say that, you know, maybe he's right. Maybe the Virginians did ask him to do this by electing the slate of Democrat legislators. Anyway, let me continue. The sanctuaries have to become a top issue across the state after Northam introduced a set of 8 gun control bills in July. The legislation came in response to the mass shooting at the Virginia Beach Municipal Center. Northam called on the GOP-controlled legislature to take votes and have a dialogue. However, the General Assembly wound up this session after 90 minutes without considering Northam's bills. I bet that made him mad. These individuals that are out here now at these meetings, they had a chance to come to Richmond, Northam said. So where were you in July? Chesapeake City and Gloucester County passed Second Amendment sanctuary resolutions unanimously. Other counties and cities have passed similar resolutions. Northam said although his government has no plans to retaliate against municipalities that are passing sanctuary resolutions, there could be consequences if law enforcement isn't enforcing the law. There's not going to be retaliation. That's not what I'm about. Northam said, if we have constitutional laws on the books and law enforcement officers are not enforcing those laws, there are going to be some consequences. But I'll cross that bridge if and when we get to it. The governor stressed there's nothing unconstitutional about any laws passed in the State House or Senate. They say they don't want law enforcement to enforce unconstitutional laws. Well, Any law that we pass in Richmond and the 8 pieces of legislation that I put on the table back in July, they're constitutional, Northam said. So any law you pass is constitutional. Wow. I guess we can just do away with the Supreme Court then. To hell with them. The governor said that he'll be reintroducing the legislation in January. He called it common sense gun legislation that will save lives. Well, yeah. You can believe as much or as little of that as you want. So, yeah. Kingpin's still popping in and out.
Now to Isle of Wight, where the Isle of Wight County is now a Second Amendment constitutional county.
Stop!
The Board of passed a resolution last night.
I don't want to hear from you.
They streamed a packed meeting on Facebook Live with the majority of the crowd speaking in favor of that. Also, this...
I hate pop-ups. Doggone it. So, what do you guys think of this so far? Because keep in mind, though, we do have more to the story tonight.
For the past 10 years, they were going to... And everybody in Virginia Center. So, it would have been nice if they would have stood up and did some fighting before. Really too late.
Yeah, I think it
All that
would have
being
been
said, I hope
wise.
the best for them. I hope it all works out good, but...
I think it probably would have been wise to try to get the vote out a little more. But, you know, maybe they did try. I mean, there's only so much you can do. If people won't come, they won't come. It's just like the rally in D.C., you know. A lot of us tried to spread the word and gym up support and get people out there. But if they're not going to come, they're not going to come. And if they're not going to vote, well... they're not going to vote. At least that's how it seems to work out anyhow. I don't know. What do you think, Squib?
This is going to go one way or the other. Either it's going to send a message, not only to everyone to get up off their lazy butt and vote, but also a message to any other state that tries to do this, or if they try to do this on a national level. But that message could be one or the other. It could be that you've got the sheriffs to contend with, and that's not gonna, you're not gonna get anywhere, or the sheriffs really don't have any power, and you're going to be able to get away with this everywhere you go. There was a video by Patriot Nurse, and the title was Virginia, is it the next battleground, or something to that effect, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to endorse her channel because she's one of these people calling for violence, and she'll be the last one out there standing behind you in the fight. So don't believe the hype from her and a lot of other people that want to run their mouths. But anyhow, it kind of is like the battleground state in that sense, to see how this turns out. Do the sheriffs prevail, and does it send a message to both the elected officials and the citizens? You know, the elected officials, don't try this anywhere else, don't try this again, and the citizens, get off your butt and vote. Don't give me that whiny, my vote doesn't count, or I don't need to vote this time crap. Or I don't know. I mean, I don't think that they would try to send the National Guard in, and there aren't enough guardsmen to, plus, you know, if the unit's already in that county, I don't think they're really going to be inclined to turn on their own people. I mean, there's a whole lot of, and any officer that's worth their commission is not going to enforce an unconstitutional law either. So I really don't know what to expect. I don't think we need to grab our guns and get down there and be ready and none of that garbage. But this could have lasting effects for the rest of the country because one state sat on their ass.
It could. Trying to find something here, so I apologize if I oh, there we go, because you reminded me of something that I need to read, because it follows up the next article. Speaking of the next article, we're still on the topic of Virginia, folks, because I think that I think Squib's right. This has some potential to be a powder keg, and it has the potential, if it's handled poorly, to kick off something that I think that no sane thinking individual actually wants. Notice my qualifiers there, sane and thinking. I think if you actually want Civil War II to pop off, you're a moron, and you have absolutely no concept of what you're really asking for. But that's another... Well, maybe it isn't another show entirely. I don't know. But I think that this situation in Virginia has the potential to go there. I mean, just look what happened with the whole Whiskey Warrior 556 debacle, where we had people calling for others to be armed and go show up at his house, and that was over a damn lie. Imagine how things will be if, they really are coming to take your guns. Using them, as this next article points out, using the National Guard in the process. This is from the Washington Examiner, by Kerry Pickett from December 11th, 2019. The law is the law. Virginia Democrats float prosecution, National Guard deployment if police don't enforce gun control. Democratic lawmakers on Capitol Hill say local police who do not enforce gun control measures likely to pass in Virginia should face prosecution and even threats of the National Guard. After November's Virginia legislature elections that led to Democrats taking control of both chambers, the gun control legislation proposed by some Democrats moved forward, including universal background checks, an assault weapons ban, and a red flag law. Legal firearm owners in the state, however, joined with their sheriffs to form Second Amendment sanctuary counties, which declare the authorities in these municipalities uphold the Second Amendment in the face of any gun control measure passed by Richmond. Over 75 counties in Virginia have so far adopted such Second Amendment sanctuary resolutions in the Commonwealth, the latest being Spotsylvania County. The Board of Supervisors voted unanimously to approve a resolution declaring that county police will not enforce state-level gun laws that violate Second Amendment rights. Virginia Democratic officials, however, already say local law enforcement supporting these resolutions will face consequences if they do not carry out any law the state legislature passes. I would hope they either resign in good conscience because they cannot uphold the law which they are sworn to uphold, or they're prosecuted for failure to fulfill their oath, Democratic Virginia Representative Jerry Connolly told the Washington Examiner of local county police who may refuse to enforce future gun control measures. The law is the law. If that becomes the law, you don't have a choice. Not if you're a sworn officer of the law. Well, gee, that's pretty rich coming from somebody that's a proponent of these gun control initiatives, talking about violating their oath of office. Democratic Virginia Representative Donald McEachin suggested cutting off state funds to counties that do not comply with any gun control measures that pass in Richmond. But remember, they're not about retaliation, right? They certainly risk funding because if the sheriff's department is not going to enforce the law, they're going to lose money. The county's attorney's offices are not going to have the money to prosecute because their prosecutions are going to go down, he said. McEachin also noted that Democratic Virginia Governor Ralph Northam could call the National Guard if necessary. And ultimately, I'm not the governor, but the governor may have to nationalize the National Guard to enforce the law, he said. That's his call because I don't know how serious these counties are and how severe the violations of law will be. But that's obviously an option he has. Virginia Attorney General Mark Herring, isn't that the guy that is the, isn't that the sex offender? Was that the Attorney General or was that some other elected official in Virginia?
No, the sex offender is the lieutenant governor.
Oh,
Mark Herring is the other white guy that admitted to being in blackface more than
Oh, okay. Yeah, my bad. Sorry for casting aspersions on your sex offender status there, Mr. Herring. I apologize for that. You're just a racist. Okay. Anyhow, Virginia Attorney General Mark Herring blamed the numerous Second Amendment resolutions in the state on the gun lobby as a tactic to frighten state residents. The resolutions that are being passed are being ginned up by the gun lobby to try to scare people. What we're talking about here are laws that will make our communities and our streets safer, Herring told CBS 6. So when Virginia passes these gun safety laws that they will be followed, they will be enforced, he added. Yes, you will obey. Or else. Nice. Very nice.
This is a perfect example or a perfect time for united we stand, divided we fall. You know, if your local sheriff or local deputy or city police officer or whatever stands up to do the right thing and then they get fired, then that entire community should be down at City Hall or the police station the next day. Don't go to work.
Yep.
Don't take your kids to school.
Yep.
Don't go to the babysitters. Every one of the people in that community go down to City Hall and say, no, you're going to reinstate this officer or we're not leaving here. You know, that's how things are going to change when, just like they're doing with these, even though I wish they would have done it before instead of waiting, but now that it's here, they need to see mobilization. You don't need to go killing anybody or threatening to kill anybody or making a stupid internet video about telling people to go kill somebody.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. The Virginia National Guard has a response to this. This is from a release by them from Major General Timothy P. Williams, the Adjutant General of Virginia. We have received multiple questions regarding proposed legislation for the 2020 General Assembly session and the authority of the Governor of Virginia to employ the Virginia National Guard in a law enforcement role. Please make sure you share this message with all of your personnel. We understand and respect the passion people feel for the U.S. Constitution and Second Amendment rights. We will not speculate about the possible use of the Virginia National Guard. I encourage everyone to be patient while we allow our elected officials to work through the legislative process. We have not received any requests from the governor or anyone on his staff about serving in a law enforcement role related to any proposed legislation. I expect our soldiers, airmen, and members of the Virginia Defense Force to be professional and respectful in their discussions about this subject. As private citizens, our personnel are free to express their opinions to their elected officials, but they should not engage in any political activity while in a uniform status. We will provide regular updates when appropriate during the General Assembly session. Please utilize your chain of command to direct any questions or concerns to my office. We will do our best to address them. Which really is a big nothing burger. It's just basically, hey, we haven't heard anything about this yet from them.
Budget.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm going to pull the veteran card right now.
Sure, go ahead.
As a veteran, my response is wrong answer. The answer shouldn't have been about, conducting yourself and not spreading rumors and stuff like that. That should be passed down within the chain of command, not on some, where everybody has. That's something that he should be saying. He should be saying we're not here to enforce, unconstitutional laws, and you're not supposed to obey an unlawful order. It's as simple as that. You take an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States. And yes, they do disaster relief and things like that, and sometimes they are deployed for situations where they have martial law declared, and they work in small areas for something. But for them to deploy the National Guard in Virginia, there aren't enough guardsmen, there aren't enough. And if he was just looking out for the safety of his people, he will follow his orders as an officer, which are not to obey any unjust orders. If they order you to go into that village and kill all of those people just because they might be bad guys, that's an unlawful order. But if the village gets caught in the crossfire, you're on patrol and you take fire from the village and you shoot back, and that's casualties of war. It's a whole different thing. So that's to give you an idea of an unlawful order. If they say, you're going to go down this street with a tank and you're going to drive it through every house that doesn't walk out, they don't walk outside and give up their guns. That's an unlawful order. The military isn't here to attack the civilian population. They've been deployed in certain circumstances where there's been riots and things like that, but they're on a very limited basis. They are not here to be the police. We police the rest of the world.
I hear you and I agree with you, but I think that the guard commander there didn't really say anything other than, hey, be professional while you're in uniform. Don't talk about it. Say what you want when you're out of uniform. He didn't make a stand one way or the other because, and I think that was smart of him because, well, he hasn't received those orders yet. He doesn't have to make a stand or make a choice yet. And I don't think it's appropriate for him to dip his oar in the political water and say what he would do in the hypothetical. You know what I mean? I think that remaining silent and basically telling his troops, hey guys, stay calm on this one. We're not there yet, is basically what I'm getting from it. I think that was pretty much the right level-headed answer from him. Politically speaking. Now, of course, morally speaking, it would have been, hell no, I'm not going to enforce any unconstitutional laws and obey any unconstitutional illegal orders, go to hell. But, once you get... Because I'm assuming that the military works a lot like corrections does in that. Once you attain a certain rank, you pretty much have to play politician.
Oh yeah. These officers are groomed into that, and it's something. It's part of their training. It's part of as they work their way up. I mean, that's why some officers end up in politics, all the way up to president, right?
Yeah.
And they understand they have to be able to deal with civilians. They have to be able to deal with the press. They have to be able to deal with their higher ups above them. And I'm guessing that he contacted the Secretary of the Army, at least, probably in addition to the governor, because he takes his orders from both. But it's still, he's a member of the military, even though he's part of the State National Guard. He's a member of the United States military, and it's not what the military is. It's not what we're ordered to do.
Correct.
So if there was a riot in Richmond because somebody did try to start the Boogaloo crap and the police couldn't handle it, then yes, they'd call up the National Guard in Richmond. But to go door to door confiscating or to send National Guard into like the sheriff's department to drag the sheriff out, and I don't think so.
I don't see that flying. I just don't. But then I go back to the Katrina episode where, the police and guard did disarm citizens door to door. And anytime they saw them on the street or on the waterways or anywhere in the area, they disarmed them, confiscated their weapons. And that was an absolutely unconstitutional order, but they did it. So I don't know. A lot's going to depend on the leadership and what the leadership decides to do. So let's keep an eye on this situation. I know one person keeping an eye on the situation is Alan Gottlieb, and he wrote an opinion piece that was published on AmmoLand. He says, shocker, not. Virginia Democrats suggest quid pro quo to force gun control compliance. Bellevue, Washington. The Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms today said, this is from when? When is this from? December 13th, today. The Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms today said Virginia state lawmakers who threaten to withhold state funds from Second Amendment sanctuary counties that refuse to enforce gun control laws that pass in Richmond are practicing world-class hypocrisy. After weeks of rhetoric about alleged quid pro quo efforts by President Donald Trump to force the Ukraine government to investigate a political rival or risk losing U.S. aid, it is dumbfounding that a Virginia lawmaker would suggest essentially the same thing, said CCRKBA Chairman Alan Gottlieb. The hypocrisy is stunning. The Washington Examiner reported that Democratic Virginia Representative Donald McEachin suggested cutting off state funds to counties that do not comply with any gun control measures that pass in Richmond. Anti-gun Democrats can call that anything they want, Gottlieb observed, but it equates to the kind of political blackmail their Capitol Hill colleagues have accused Trump of committing. Apparently, strong-arm coercion is okay, so long as it's a Democrat who's doing it. 78 Virginia counties have reportedly adopted Second Amendment sanctuary resolutions, infuriating incoming Democrats who are threatening to pass all kinds of restrictive gun control measures in 2020. These anti-rights extremists aren't even trying to disguise their intentions anymore, Gottlieb stated. What was once the party of gun control has become the party of gun confiscation and social bigotry. Where they were once apprehensive about gun control, now they are arrogant. They despise gun owners, and they're determined to reduce a constitutional right to a heavily regulated privilege. They will punish anyone who stands in their way. I would have to add that I think Mr. Gottlieb, though I respect and admire him, is wrong on one thing. I do not think that they're determined to reduce a constitutional right to a heavily regulated privilege. I think they're trying to make it non-existent. Democrats will consider bans on so-called assault weapons and original capacity magazines, revive the failed one-gun-a-month restriction, expand background checks, and institute other gun control schemes. They won the legislature with the help from a $2.5 million expenditure by Michael Bloomberg's Everytown for Gun Safety Action Fund. The saddest part of this, Gottlieb concluded, is that nobody should really be surprised. When anti-rights extremism replaces sensible governing, diplomacy gives way to demagoguery, and nobody benefits. And aside from the aforementioned little quibble I have with what he said, I disagree. I agree with Mr. Gottlieb completely. I think it's hypocritical of them to pull the same tactics that they're complaining about in someone else. Although it has been said before by others who are far more intelligent than I and pay far better attention to things like this than I, that if you want to know what a Democrat's up to, see what they're accusing somebody else of. So, yeah. Speaking of states that are in a mess of gun control, just a mess of gun control. I was going to use another word, but I don't want to. I don't want to break the PG-13 barrier. Speaking of states that are in a mess of gun control, California's Ammopocalypse is in full effect. This is from the Sacramento Bee from December 11th. Thousands of lawful California gun owners are being denied ammunition purchases. Here's why. By Javier Mascareñas. I think I said that right. Zachary Berg usually buys guns and ammunition with relative ease. After all, he's a Sutter County Sheriff's deputy and needs them for his job. California's stringent gun laws usually don't apply to him. But Berg couldn't buy shotgun shells at his local hardware store in Yuba City prior to a duck hunting trip last month. He was rejected under California's stringent ammunition background check program that took effect July 1st because his personal information didn't match what the state officials had in their database. Berg was one of tens of thousands of Californians who have been turned away from buying ammunition at firearms and sporting goods stores, even though they appear to be lawfully able to do so, the Sacramento Bee review of state data shows. Between July 1st and November, nearly 1 in every 5 ammunition purchases was rejected by the California Department of Justice, the figure shows. That's 20%. Wow. Of the 345,547 ammunition background checks performed, only 101 stopped the buyer because he or she was a prohibited person who can't legally possess ammunition, according to State Department of Justice data. Yet another 62,000 ammunition purchases were rejected as well. Those people left empty-handed because their personal information hadn't been entered into the state system, or the information on their identification cards didn't match what officials had entered into the California Gun Registry database, which retail sellers must review when they do the ammunition background check. It's a little ironic, the fact that I'm a deputy, that I can't buy ammunition, Berg said. But at the same time, anybody else who's legally allowed to, they shouldn't be denied based on address errors. It's just crazy. The rejection numbers are detailed in court documents Attorney General Javier Becerra's office filed in U.S. District Court in San Diego in response to a pending lawsuit that's seeking to overturn the new gun laws. The suit was filed by the California Rifle and Pistol Association. The case's lead plaintiff is Kim Rode, an Olympic shooter and a National Rifle Association board member. Becerra's office declined to comment, citing the ongoing litigation. But in court filings, the agency said the state's rejection rate declined from 19% in July to 15% in October, a downward trend the agency says will continue as familiarity with the system among ammunition vendors and consumers increases. Becerra's office also noted that ammunition purchasers have had better luck on the second try. For instance, 44% of purchasers who had been rejected in July were able to buy ammunition in November. But to gun rights advocates, the mass denials are confirmation of their long-standing assertion that liberal gun control laws disproportionately burden law-abiding gun owners who follow the rules, even as criminals continue to acquire guns and ammunition without jumping through the regulatory hoops. Duh! The restrictions are not going on criminals. They're not targeting criminal misuses. It's targeting otherwise law-abiding persons in the way that they can exercise their rights, said Daniel Reed, the Western Regional Director of the National Rifle Association. You're seeing a handful of denials for prohibited persons, and all these other people are being denied for clerical errors or administrative-type issues. The rejections appear to have occurred because of errors and omissions in the Department of Justice's own gun registration database. Under the law, Californians buying ammunition are required to pass an in-store background check, which involves vendors running a buyer's name through the DOJ database to see if they have legally purchased a gun in recent years. Purchasing a gun in California is a separate process that involves a background check and waiting period. And I'm not going to go on and go through this whole thing, but you get the point. Because someone isn't entering stuff in this database correctly, law-abiding citizens aren't able to exercise their constitutionally protected rights. While criminals, of course, aren't affected because they either buy their ammunition on the black market or maybe drive on over to Arizona or, Nevada or a neighboring state and buy their ammunition and just bring it back over. Which I guess that would make me a criminal because that's probably what I would end up doing if I lived there, frankly. Not that I'm encouraging anyone to violate the laws of the state in which they live. That's up to you. I'm just saying, if I lived in California, that's what I would do. Thoughts, gentlemen?
Yeah, I emailed you a link that unknown user sent me the other day about back to Virginia, about they're trying to ban self-defense classes. California, you can't buy ammunition. You can't have your electricity turned on when your next door neighbor's house is on fire. How long do people want to put up with this? Like, when is enough enough? How often can you walk out your front door and step across human feces and needles and people laying and sleeping in your streets, and then see your governor living in a big old mansion and getting reelected and smiling and giving everything away for free while the people who work, like, if you don't want a change, you get California. And California has been they fell off the cliff. They're sinking deeper and deeper into the ocean for 30 years.
Oh, yeah. Squib, do you have any thoughts on the ongoing debacle that is California's Ammopocalypse?
No, it's move.
Don't stay and fight, just move, huh?
You know what? Here's the thing. You want to stay and fight, stay and fight. There's nothing I can do for you. Not really. Okay? You want to move? Move. I'm going to advise you to move. Here's the deal. People are whining and complaining that Texas is going to be the next state to collapse because all these people are moving in from all these other states and they're taking over Texas. And I've got to say, okay, if all these people are moving in from like New York and California, then all the anti-gunners are leaving New York and California. It should be getting better there, but it isn't. So what's going on? But here's the thing. If you're in a state that is a lost cause and you relocate to a state that needs you, like Texas, then we won't lose Texas. Now, I know it's kind of impractical to say, all right, let's get 1 million people to move out of California and move into Texas. I understand that. I'm saying that on I guess, the whole theory of it. Okay. But if your state has been going downhill for decades, it's not getting any better. And no matter what you do, it's not getting any better. Yeah, I'm going to say move. You want to stay and fight, you stay and fight. But look to your left and look to your right. Who's standing with you? I hear about all these millions of gun owners in California. Where the hell are they? You know, I mean, so I don't know. That's probably going to be my default thing. Move to a state where it's still free, where your vote does count. And not to say your vote doesn't count, because there were lots of people who thought their vote didn't count and they didn't show up, and look what happened in Virginia. And I think that's what's been going on in California over the decades, in addition to other things going. You know, if your vote isn't as effective, how's that? I'll be a little bit more PC when I say it. If your vote isn't as effective where you're at, and it hasn't been for decades, not for a year, not for one election cycle, not for a couple years, but for decades, then you might want to consider relocating. Why does the anti-gun lefty that lives next to you get to relocate to Texas and change Texas and you don't?
Yeah.
I used to live in California. The weather there is fantastic. I can absolutely understand why somebody would want to live there and why somebody would want to stay there. There are lots of things there. There are lots of jobs, especially if you've got a college degree. There's a lot to do. There's a whole lot to do there. It is a really nice place from that standpoint. But the taxes and the laws and the traffic and their anti-gun stance, I'll never live there again, not unless they wipe the slate clean and start all over in the places like it used to be a long time ago, even before I lived there. But there are lots of people out there that have legitimate reasons why they don't relocate. They're totally capable of relocating, and they don't, and they have reasons, not excuses. And then there are other people that whine and complain. They don't do anything. They aren't fighting for the Second Amendment, or they're doing it kind of half-assed. And complain. All right, fine, dude, move. And then you don't get a reasonable explanation. You get an excuse. There are lots of people in this world who have never lived anywhere other than one place their whole life. I've moved around my whole life. It's not easy, but it's something you're capable of it. So if you're so sick of it there, and you've been fighting the good fight for a long time, and you're just sick of it, I support you if you want to move. And if you go, I just don't know if I could up and leave this and leave that, and I've got to go somewhere, I don't know this, and I don't. You know what? I've done it so many times. You just get used to it. You get used to the local customs. You get used to pronouncing the cities by the local, whatever. I mean, you get used to the traffic there. You get used to the primary form of economy. And that's another thing, too. Some people might be looking to change careers. That's a great reason to want to move. But if you want to stay and fight, stay and fight. It's just, I just hear a lot of people whining, but not doing anything.
Yeah. Well, moving on to another state that has horrific gun control laws. yet, strangely enough, still has gun crime. I'm sure that everybody out there knows what happened in New Jersey, in the Jersey City attack on the deli. And I bring this up because the follow-up to this story is Second Amendment related. Jersey City shooting was a targeted attack on a Jewish kosher deli. This is from, December 11th by Colin Dwyer. The shootings that left at least 3 civilians and 1 police officer dead Tuesday in Jersey City, New Jersey, was a targeted attack, according to local authorities. Jersey City Mayor Stephen Fulop explained Wednesday that the pair of shooters, who were also killed, had clearly singled out the kosher market on which they opened fire. At the time of the incident yesterday, it was difficult to understand intent, and there's still a lot of questions about that. But after reviewing the closed-circuit TV cameras on the Jersey City side, we do feel comfortable that it was a targeted attack on the Jewish kosher deli across the street here, Fulop told reporters during a morning snowstorm, gesturing at a storefront crowded with emergency personnel. 6 people died in Tuesday's attacks, including the suspects, David N. Anderson, 47, and Francine Graham, 50. New Jersey Attorney General Gerber Gruhl identified the shooters at a joint news conference with other law enforcement leaders Wednesday afternoon. He said Anderson and Graham killed Detective Joseph Seals, 39, during an encounter near Bayview Cemetery prior to the main shootout. Thereafter, at approximately 12:21 p.m., a white U-Haul van driven by Mr. Anderson parked directly across the street from the J.C. Kosher Supermarket, which is approximately 1 mile from the cemetery. Within seconds of arriving, Mr. Anderson exited the driver's side door of the U-Haul with a rifle in his hand. He walked towards the J.C. Kosher Supermarket and immediately began shooting. Ms. Graham, the passenger in the van, followed Mr. Anderson into the store. 4 people were inside the supermarket at the time, according to the Attorney General. 1 escaped with gunshot wounds. The 3 others died. Gruhl identified them as Mindel Ferenc, who is in her early 30s, Moshe Deutsch, 24, and Miguel Douglas, 49. The ensuing standoff between suspects and police lasted about 3 hours before a police armored vehicle broke into the storefront and officers discovered the shooters' bodies inside. Afterwards, authorities say they recovered a pipe bomb and numerous firearms from the scene. The vehicle used by Anderson and Graham was searched by our state police professionals forensically. They did locate in that, amongst other items that I won't be discussing, a pipe bomb, improvised explosive device, FBI Special Agent in Charge Gregory Erie told reporters. It was a viable device, meaning that it could be a device that would have exploded. It was, again, a pipe bomb by design. Not complicated, but sophisticated in the sense that time and effort went into creating it, Erie said. In a statement released Wednesday, Rabbi David Niederman mourned Ferenc and Deutsch as prominent members of the local Jewish community. Of course, we'll collect ourselves and go on with our lives. At the same time, we can't let the horrible hate go on and threaten us. It's too late already. The hate that springs up all over now cut short lives so close to home. Oh, the hate that springs up all over now cuts short lives so close to home, said Niederman, the president of the United Jewish Organizations of Williamsburg and North Brooklyn. But we have to act now so that we don't have to mourn precious lives in the future, he said. Well, yeah, you should act now so that you don't have to mourn precious lives in the future. But not in the way that the anti-guns want you to. Let's see. At this news conference, Fulop said there likely would have been more victims if 2 police officers nearby had not responded quickly after hearing the gunshots while they were on patrol 1 block away. That was extremely lucky because, this being New Jersey, I can be pretty sure that almost nobody around had a legally carried firearm. From what we can tell on the CCTV cameras, had they not responded, and had they not been there in that location, more than likely more people would have died, Fulop said. The reason that those perpetrators seemed to be inside of that deli and not able to move potentially to the school or to inflict more harm was because the police responded immediately and returned fire. Both officers sustained gunshot wounds in the exchange of fire. There's a GoFundMe for Seal's wife and 5 children. Let's see. Local officials on Wednesday called it a targeted attack on the kosher deli, but they did not describe shooting specifically as an anti-Semitic attack. Really? I didn't use the words anti-Semitic. The motives are still part of the investigation. They exited the van and then proceeded to attack this location in a targeted manner. Anything else is open for investigation. Well, the investigation has shown up that these two were anti-Semitic. They are members of... I have the doggone it. Let me whip out my topics. They were members of a anti-Semitic sect called the Black Hebrew Israelites or something. I think that's what they were, and they specifically targeted these people because they were Jewish. So, this is a terrorist attack. Not a criminal event. It is a terrorist attack. But that doesn't matter. Because their response, of course, is to put more restrictions on law-abiding citizens. Because, criminals will obey them too, just out of the kindness and goodness of their heart. Terrorists will obey them too, just out of the kindness and goodness of their heart. This is from December 10th. Jersey City shooting. We need new gun restrictions, say New Jersey Congress members. This is from NJ.com. By Jonathan D. Sallant. Washington. Today's Jersey City shootout that took the lives of a police officer and 5 others immediately sparked a new debate for legislation to restrict some access to firearms. America needs sensible gun safety legislation now, said Representative Frank Pallone. This does not have to be our reality. Representative Andy Kim, Democrat 3rd District, who received support from gun control groups when he ousted National Rifle Association-backed Republican Representative Tom MacArthur in 2018, also reacted to the shooting by championing gun control legislation. Let's see. From Kim tweeted, today's shooting in Jersey City is a heartbreaking tragedy. We mourn the death of a police officer and a stark reminder of the dangers law enforcement officers face to keep communities safe. Sadly, more New Jerseyans lost their lives, and we stand with their families tonight. We must support our first responders to help fight back against this senseless violence and need to take common sense measures to keep guns out of the hands of those who commit such acts. Here's a thought. And I know that this may be something revolutionary. How about we put guns in the hands of those who would responsibly use them to protect people from the bad guys? To keep themselves from becoming the victims of a terror attack. How about that? Instead of making more helpless subjects. Of course, if people aren't helpless, then you can't do whatever you want to them, right? So there we have New Jersey with one of the most restrictive sets of gun control laws in the country. In response to a terror attack, what do they want? More gun control. When do they want it? Now. And yes, for those of you, I know you mentioned this in a different. I know you mentioned this in another show tonight. I think it was on Gary's show that you mentioned this, Kingpin. But that Tlaib or however the hell you say her name, we're going to be talking about her in the next segment. What she said. So yes, awesome on her, right? But go ahead if you had something other than that to bring up. Hello?
Are you talking to me or Squibby?
Either of you.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, that makes total sense to me. If the laws that you have right now aren't working, then you need to make more laws. I mean, how else is it supposed to work?
Yeah.
It reminds me of what they say about socialism. Oh, we just haven't done it right yet.
You're right. That's exactly what they do.
And some of the people who are pushing for more laws that aren't going to do anything, just like laws they've tried in the past aren't doing anything. Not all of them. people, but some of the people are the ones that are also pushing for us to change from a constitutional republic to a socialist government.
Oh, and
Interesting.
they also say that you don't need a gun because it's not really that dangerous out there. And then they say,
We have to take all the guns because it's so dangerous.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Scumbags. You guys are out there hiding each other? What is this? I stopped paying attention to the chat, and it's mass chaos and anarchy. My gods. You guys.
It's so funny. It's so funny that I've been hidden by midnight like 3 times now by accident.
Next thing you know, we'll have dogs and cats sleeping together and all this other good garbage, right? Lot of stupidity shown in these elected officials. A whole lot. And, well, you know, that don't shock me. But, stop. I do not want notifications or nothing from you guys. Anyhow, but that doesn't shock me because stupidity abounds. And as we're about to find out, stupidity really abounds because this week in the Moron of the Week, I have 3 people. Well, 3 groups anyway, or 2 individuals and 1 group for y'all to choose from. So let's go ahead and move into the Moron of the Week.
And now prepare yourself for another tale of stupidity in this episode of Moron of the Week.
The first contestant in Moron of the Week for December 13th, 2019 comes from a piece in the Washington Standard. This is from December 11, 2019. Florida. Cops break into innocent sleeping woman's home and shoot her. Now, she's facing life in prison. Winter Park, Florida. Bobby Sapp, 49, is a registered nurse who has no criminal past. Despite never having committed a crime, because of the backward justice system in America, coupled with violent police welfare checks, Sapp is now facing the possibility of life behind bars. On the night in question, Sapp had done nothing wrong, had committed no crime, and harmed no one. Yet police broke into her home, raided her bedroom as she slept, and shot her. Then, they had the audacity to arrest her and charge her with multiple felonies. Sapp's nightmare began in September of 2017 as she slept comfortably in her own bed in her own home. Instead of waking up to her alarm that fateful morning, Sapp would wake up to multiple shadowy figures surrounding her in her bedroom, pulling off her covers, yelling at her, tasering her, and eventually shooting her. Sapp is so confident that she did nothing wrong that she went on camera recently with News 6 Orlando to tell her side of the story. It is nothing short of shocking. She says the entire incident began because her disgruntled ex-boyfriend used a police welfare check to deliberately harm her. It worked. He used this wellness check as a way to put me in harm's way, she said. Indeed, instead of actually investigating the situation by knocking on the door, calling her, or any other number of nonviolent means, cops helped this man, who did not live at the house and could have been anyone, break into her home and then shoot this woman on his behalf. My girlfriend was threatening suicide last night. I just came to the house and trying to get in, Sapp's ex-boyfriend told the 911 operator. Sapp says these were all lies. If she actually wanted to kill herself, she could have used one of the 2 guns which she regularly sleeps with. She did not. She's very well armed, Sapp's ex-boyfriend told the 911 operator when asked if Sapp had a gun. She's threatened suicide by cop before, he said. There's no record of Sapp ever attempting to commit suicide by herself or by cop before. Also, if she was trying to commit suicide by cop that night, she would have had to call the cops. She did not call the police. I was asleep in my bed. I was not at all contemplating suicide or suicide by cop, Sapp told News 6. Nevertheless, police show up to the home and start taking directions from Sapp's ex, who did not live there. There's one way into the house to crawl through a window, and I don't want to do that at this point. I want someone here with me, Sapp's ex-boyfriend said during the call. When police arrived on scene, Sapp's ex showed them how to break into the home, and they followed his directions. I'm asking if there's any weapons in the house. He tells me there's enough weapons in the house to start a revolution, Officer Jeff Markham, one of the responding officers, said, according to an interview obtained by News 6. Those weapons consisted of 2 pistols recovered from Sapp's bed after she'd been shot. Police claimed that when they were breaking into Sapp's home that they announced themselves as cops. However, when they got to Sapp's bedroom, they admit that they did not announce themselves and she was still sleeping. She had no idea they were police. We're yelling at her to, let us see your hands, let us see your hands, Markham said. Because the innocent woman who was just shaken out of sleep by heavily armed strangers in her bedroom did not immediately begin to prostrate herself at the feet of her home invaders, force was escalated. I didn't have my glasses on. I'm legally blind, Sapp said. I couldn't identify anybody, but I remember there being shadowy figures standing in my room. They pulled the covers off me. At that point, when she pulled the cover, Miss Sapp immediately came up with a handgun and pointed it right at us, Markham told investigators. Sapp disputes the notion that she ever pointed a gun. She says that had she actually pointed a gun, she would be dead because more than one of the cops would have fired their guns. If I'd been pointing my gun the way they said that I was, why didn't they all shoot me instead of just one person, Sapp asked. Indeed, as TFTP has reported on a regular basis, cops are more than willing to shoot someone for merely reaching for areas where there may be a gun. If you actually point a gun at a cop, especially 4 of them, rest assured, you're going to be filled with holes immediately. I kind of have to agree with that one. Instead of shooting her, one cop deployed his taser. Markham, apparently scared of his own shadow, then did what the other officers in the room never felt necessary. He pulled out his gun and put a bullet into Sapp. This innocent woman, who had harmed no one, was asleep in her own bedroom and did nothing wrong, was then shot in the shoulder and arrested. Here's where it gets really stupid, folks. It doesn't make any sense that she would come in that way unless they were lied to by somebody that was using this well-being check as a tool to put me in harm's way, Sapp said. To process that has been really difficult. It's something that can happen to anyone. Despite the fact that not a single cop was injured, and the fact that Sapp never fired off a round, and the fact that she was the one who was shot, this woman was arrested and charged with the following felonies. Attempted first-degree murder of a law enforcement officer with a firearm. Attempted first-degree murder of a LEO with a firearm. Aggravated assault on a LEO with a deadly weapon. Aggravated assault with a deadly weapon 3 times. And resisting an officer with violence. Sapp, whose trial begins this month, now faces the possibility of life behind bars for attempting to defend herself against multiple armed home invaders who happen to wear badges. All of this, of course, was carried out for her own safety. So contestant number 1 is the group, and that is the Winter Park, Florida justice system. Both their prosecutor and the officers that responded to this quote-unquote welfare check. So that's contestant number 1. As soon as I can find me a doggone... there's a pencil. So, police and prosecutor. That's contestant number 1. But wait, there's more. And the other 2 stem from the Jersey City attack. This is a piece from Breitbart by A.W.R. Hawkins from December 10th. Julian Castro blames GOP for gun attack in Democrat-controlled New Jersey. Even as a gun battle raged between police and 2 suspects in Jersey City, Democrat presidential hopeful Julian Castro blamed Republicans for gun violence in Democrat-controlled New Jersey. Breitbart News reported that a New Jersey officer was shot by a gunman when shots rang out in a cemetery Tuesday afternoon. The suspects then fled to a nearby bodega, and shots continued to be directed at responding officers. The New York Times reports that one officer was fatally wounded in the incident. Witnesses reportedly heard a flurry of gunfire. Democrat presidential hopeful Castro responded to the incident by tweeting, "Don't let anyone tell you this is normal. The gun lobby has brought Republicans silence on gun violence, but they won't buy ours. Our thoughts are with Jersey City today, but so should our perseverance to act." Castro did not mention that New Jersey is a Democrat-controlled state, nor did he mention that it has more gun control laws than nearly any other state in the Union. So there we go. Castro is contestant number 2 in Moron of the Week. But wait, there's more. Because I recently, today, found out about yet another idiot who really needed to be added to this. So let's go to last, but most certainly not least. Rashida Tlaib blames black nationalists' Jersey City killing spree on white supremacy. Democratic Representative Rashida Tlaib on Wednesday blamed the white supremacy for Tuesday's deadly shooting in Jersey City perpetrated by a couple with suspected ties to a black supremacist group. This is heartbreaking. White supremacy kills, the Michigan Democrat wrote, and a since deleted tweet addressing the shooting. Tlaib deleted her tweet later on Thursday. White supremacy. This is heartbreaking. White supremacy kills. A man and a woman exited a stolen van Tuesday afternoon and fired gunshots into a kosher grocery store in Jersey City, killing a police detective and 3 others. Investigators believe the couple were former members of the Black Hebrew Israelites, a group known to have antipathy towards white and Jewish people. The couple were shot and killed at the scene. Authorities said the male shooter had previously posted anti-Semitic content online and targeted the kosher grocery store. Law enforcement investigating Tuesday's shooting also discovered a pipe bomb in the stolen vehicle the couple drove. So, yeah, from our standpoint, no question it's a hate crime, Jersey City Mayor Stephen Fulop said. Tlaib, one of the first 2 Muslim congresswomen, has been vocal in calling out others she believes are engaging in racism, including President Trump. So, then she also made some stuff about Trump. So, Rashida Tlaib, you are contestant number 3 in Moron of the Week for saying that black nationalists attacking a Jewish deli is the fault of white supremacists instead of, the actual pieces of shit that pulled the triggers. So this is where we vote, folks. Everybody here on the panel gets a vote, and those of you out there in the chat get to vote as well. So let's go ahead. Who do we have it for? The police and prosecutor in the Florida lady case? Julian Castro for saying that the Republicans and NRA are to blame for the Jersey City shooting? Or Rashida Tlaib blaming black supremacists' hate crimes on white supremacists? Squib, who do you vote for? Who's the biggest moron this week?
Oh, those police in the first story. I can't even, oh boy, everything about it.
Okay, so Florida for Squib. Kingpin, what do you vote for?
Well, Rashida Tlaib could win this every day of the week, so I can't vote for her. Julian Castro is just following the party line, so he's going to say the same thing about drunk drivers tomorrow. I got to go with the police, even though I would rank that more along the lines of evil corruption, but we'll go with moron of the week for the police.
All right. Let's see. Out there in the chat, who do we have? Boob Sweat votes for Florida case. Glimtech, he said he would like all 3, but if not, number 1 takes my ultimate vote. So far it's 4 for Florida case. Anybody else? We got 24 people watching. What do you think? Who gets to be moron of the week? Florida case, Castro, or Tlaib? 9mm says number 1, the Florida case. Roll call says 5-0. Kinky says Florida.
I think roll call meant that he was voting 5 times for the first one.
Anybody else want to chime in? 25 watching. Come on, let me see some votes. This is your chance to have your input on this, folks. So I'm going to shut it down here in a moment if I'm not hearing anybody. So far, it's 7 for Florida, 0 for everybody else. New York says the lady getting shot number 1. Going once. Chance to vote going twice. 3 times. And we're done. By unanimous decision. This isn't what I expected. The Florida justice system, you are the moron of the week.
And there we had another tale of stupidity in this week's episode of
Moron of the Week.
Yeah, that's pretty. That was pretty egregious, you know. There she is, she's not doing anything wrong, getting woke up out of a dead sleep, gets shot, and she's facing life in jail. That's crazy. I don't know how.
Okay.
I don't know who's the bigger moron, the jerkwad that shot her, or the prosecutor that said, "Yeah, let's go ahead and charge this," or the grand jury that returned an indictment, or you know what I mean? That entire justice system is screwed to proceed with that case. Sorry, Squib. Go ahead. I talked right over you, brother.
And so, I guess the moral of this story is that the police have the right to break into your home.
Yeah, and if you resist,
they
you're
didn't
done.
knock on the door. They didn't call to see if somebody was in there. They didn't. They just broke in like a criminal, and then when they get there, the person is asleep. There's no evidence that they've done any harm to themselves. There's no pills all over the floor or bottle of Drano or nothing like that. And they're going to wake them up out of the dead sleep in the dark like that in such a scary fashion, pull the sheets off of her. I mean, this was nothing short of burglary and attempted rape.
Yeah, it was a home invasion.
And it's legal? Yeah.
It was a home invasion. We have a late arrival.
Now,
Mike from GunTube, otherwise known as Night Strike. How are you doing, sir?
Darn, I was hoping you wouldn't see me here.
Now, how could I miss that?
I was hoping. I was crossing my fingers.
You wanted to give me a surprise shout out being French and scare the mess out of me?
Yes!
9mm says, I'll never understand police threatening / aiming at suicidal people. The point is to prevent death. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, if she was going to kill herself, and I understand they have to be armed to protect themselves, but if they've got their guns drawn and they're going to use, and the guy's saying, yeah, she wants suicide by cop, they're giving her what she wants. I mean, these police get moron of the week 10 times over. 10 times over, and just off of anybody's word, hey man, you could just, I think that person's a little bit crazy. Hey, no problem. We'll send the SWAT team in on your. I mean, what?
How are 2 pistols the start of revolution?
And did they say anything in the story about any charges against this scumbag that made these false allegations?
Nope.
I bet he walks away scot-free.
Yep. It was all for her own good, don't you know? We destroyed the village in order to save it. That's what it was. We shot her in order to protect her. Yeah, the more I'm thinking about it, the more I think they deserve that. They deserve to get that vote. Yep.
I'm not buying it, and I hope some people go to prison over that.
Yeah.
Well, just think, if you put yourself on a woman's perspective, and I know it can happen to men, but you're dead asleep, masked men break into your house with guns and pull the sheets off your bed, the first thing you're probably thinking of is, I'm about to get, I'm not going to say it on your show, but by a bunch of guys. So if I got a nightside bed, I'm plugging people. It's a good thing. I mean, thank God that she didn't have to fire her weapon at a bunch of police officers. And I agree with Night Strike. I hope every one of them go to prison.
But they
see,
won't.
here's the thing.
Qualified
What
immunity.
law enforcement officer in their right mind would go, yeah, this is a good plan? I mean, seriously. If they knock on the door, they beat on the door, they, police, search warrant, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, they make every reasonable, and they announce themselves and the whole 9 yards, and they get in the house and people are sleeping. There's nobody standing behind the door with a gun or nothing like that. Okay, at that point, guns down and turn on the lights and figure out what the hell's going on. But you just broke into somebody's house. And if they don't do that, and the person defends themselves, I think the person is I don't care if they're law enforcement or I don't care if they're Donald Trump. They broke into the house.
Yep.
That's why they're supposed to wear a uniform. That's why they're supposed to beat on the door and yell search warrant. Now they yell search warrant and then they take the battering ram, but at least they're following procedure. These guys didn't even do that. They snuck in through the window or whatever. And at no point did not one of them turn around and go, no, wait, exactly how do you know how to sneak into this house? Hey, Sarge, before we go in, I think we might want to call and make sure that this is on the up and up. No, go on in. We're good. Yeah. And I don't mean Sarge down in North Carolina, Sarge. I just meant that the lead guy there. You think one of the younger guys would have said to the lead guy, this doesn't feel right.
Yep.
Well, think about this. If this woman had enough firearms in her house to start a revolution, and you're an officer, are you really gonna crawl through a window? What if she's standing there and she takes out the first officer that's crawling through the window? Now you've got an officer dead, and you've got a SWAT team coming, and a whole nother thing going on because some boyfriend said that she was crazy and wanted to kill herself. I mean, I'd rather them just battering ram the door down and running there screaming and yelling than possibly breaking in or crawling through a window or whatever.
Yeah. Because, can't have people defending themselves. Not against the police. Right?
And even if it was some sort of mistake, okay, they went to the wrong address or whatever, which happens, and not excusing it, but if they come into your home and you haven't done anything and they don't announce themselves and you're like, you sure you got the wrong address, or what?
Yeah.
I think you should have every right to defend yourself. If they sneak in, if they break in like a criminal, you should. And that doesn't mean that I'm promoting violence towards law enforcement. I don't want there to be any violence. But damn, use some common sense. We hold you guys to this high standard. If you can't achieve that standard, take off the uniform and go sweep floors for a living.
Correct.
Because, people look at them as superheroes, and these guys were thugs.
You have to expect that if you break into someone's house in the middle of the night and you're not absolutely 100% sure that they know who you are, that they're going to defend themselves. Just like the people in our next segment, which is Roll Call's favorite, the Self-Defense Shoutouts. For those of you who are new to the show or have never stuck around to the end, self-defense shoutouts are not where I'm reveling in the prospect that the bad guys are taking the room temperature challenge. It is where I'm reveling in the fact that the good guys had the means, method, and opportunity to prevent the bad guys from making them take the room temperature challenge. Up first, from ABC 7 Amarillo, 2 suspects attempting to rob Northside store shot and injured. Amarillo, Texas, KVII. 2 would-be robbers were shot during an attempted robbery at a Northside convenience store Friday. This is from December 6th. According to police, at about 8:50 p.m., officers were sent to a store in the 1700 block of Northeast 24th Avenue on a robbery. Responding officers found 2 subjects suffering from gunshot wounds. The 2 were taken to a local hospital with life-threatening injuries. Further investigation revealed that the injured subjects entered the store with a shotgun and threatened to rob the store. The person working was armed and shot the 2 suspects. The store employee was not injured. The Amarillo Police Department's Violent Crimes Unit continues to investigate the incident. Next up, speaking of people trying to kick in your door, this is from Fort Wayne, from Wayne.com. News. Fort Wayne, Indiana, from December 9th, 2019. Shots fired at Christmas caroling home intruders. Police say a homeowner shot at intruders as they kicked in his door after singing Christmas carols. On December 5th, police responded to a burglary in progress at 8300 Hawk Spring Hill. They were told someone had kicked in a door, leading to shots being fired. The homeowners told police someone came to their door while caroling and knocked on the door. The female homeowner said she thought it was strange, so she didn't answer the door. She said a car pulled up in front of the house and, after knocking, the man went back to the car and came back with another person. She said they shook the door handle, then kicked in the door and tried to come inside. That's when the male homeowner fired shots at the door. He told police that he was unsure at the time if he struck anyone. Police said the suspects fled on foot and were not located. It is unclear if their vehicle was left in front of the house or had left the scene at the same time. Man, you can't trust anybody. Christmas carolers are out to thug your ass. And last but certainly not least, news.com from, when was this? 7:30 a.m. December 11, 2019. Pizza delivery driver one of 3 suspects during robbery attempt. A pizza delivery 3 men who were trying to rob the Tuesday, shooting one and critically injuring another, Dallas police said. Officers found the 2 people shot around 10:15 p.m. at an apartment complex in the 8100 Boulevard. Both were taken to Texas Health Presbyterian Hospital, Dallas, where one of them died. The 3rd suspect was arrested at the scene, police said. Their names were not released. Police said the delivery driver had a gun and shot the suspects, according to KTVT-TV, Channel 11. The pizza delivery driver was not hurt and was cooperating with police. As a former pizza delivery guy, I approve this message. So there you have it, folks. 3 tales of the good...
Wait, on that last one.
Go ahead.
On that last one, do we know if the customers got their pizza in 30 minutes or less?
We don't know. That would be a boss. That would be a boss pizza delivery driver right there. That would be just one gangster. Get robbed, shoot some dudes, and still get the pizza there within 30 minutes. That would be awesome. I don't think even I was that good. But there we have 3 instances where the good guys defended themselves against the bad guys using a gun, despite what the anti-rights, anti-freedom crowd would have you believe. So that being said, we're going to go ahead and roll up the sidewalks and put away the awnings, lock the doors, and sweep the floors. I want to thank everybody for stopping by. Squibload, is there any plugs you'd like to make? Any final thoughts, last words, words of wisdom?
Well, I was going to say something until you said words of wisdom, and then my mind went blank, so good night.
I just threw you right out there, huh? All right, Kingpin, is there anything you'd like to add to the discussion? Where can people find you?
People can find me right here every Friday night with Budget Guns and Gears on the Right of the People. So thanks for having me, sir.
Oh, you're absolutely welcome, sir. And last but certainly not least, Night Strike is headphone warning. Is there anything you would like to add, sir? And anything you'd like to plug?
Shall not be infringed.
Shall not be infringed, indeed.
Yeah. But, yeah, check out guntube.org and nightstrike.com. Yes, that is a thing. I have had the domain forever. I just haven't plugged it.
Well, there you go. Nightstrike.com, guntube.org, right?
Yep.
Guntube.org. Check it out. As always, you can find me here, Budget Guns and Gear Reviews, Budget Guns and Gear at Gun Channels, GunTube, Gunstreamer, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. www.budgetgunsandgear.com. Every Friday night, 11:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Right of the People on the Budget Guns and Gear Reviews YouTube channel. And, you know, the replays anywhere else that I put my content. So I'd like to thank everybody for coming. As always, I am humbled and amazed that you've spent so much time on this Friday night listening to me. I can't believe you do it, but I am so grateful that you do. As always, I'd like to leave you with the admonition that in these dark and dangerous times, we have to be ever more vigilant so that they don't try to Virginia our states. Call your Congress critters and elected representatives. Let them know what you think. Send them snail mail, email, telephone, telegram, carrier pigeons, smoke signals, bicycle messengers, runners, tom-toms, anything you have to do to let them know what you think. And never, ever, ever give up the fight.